Today's video is all about how to speak like a true Taoist master. Now, I could make the video a lot shorter by just saying talk less, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to make a big fat hypocrite of myself and make an entire video of me talking about why it's important to talk less. So let's get into that. If there's one thing that we humans just love to do, talking has to be pretty close to the top of the list. It seems like all we do is talk, and invent other ways of talking over longer distances and to more people at a time. Weirdly enough, it seems that we don't show much of an interest in learning how to talk more effectively with the people we already do talk to, but that's a matter for a different video. Suffice it to say that the virtue of silence is not exactly a hot button topic in our world. Compare this to a passage from the Tao Te Ching. To talk little is natural. High winds do not last all morning. Heavy rain does not last all day. The more you study master teachers, not only of Taoism but of many other religions and philosophies, the more you start to realize how few words they can use to convey broad and complex meanings. Just think about what kind of book Lao Tzu wrote. The Tao Te Ching is not a long book by any means. You can get through it in an hour or two if you really want to. But even more than that, it's worth noticing the structure in which the book is written. Note that each chapter is usually no more than just a few lines, or a couple paragraphs at most, dealing with a specific topic, and then it moves on to another one. Yet if you really ponder on what was written, you can get a lot out of it. To use an example from another religion, Jesus was also an excellent example of this. Most of his direct teaching, as recorded in the New Testament, came in the form of concise statements or short stories. As I said before, one of the marks of a master teacher is their ability to say a lot with only a few words. Lao Tzu said, "The best teachers value their words and use them sparingly." But why is this even important? Does it really matter how many words it takes to convey a message, as long as the message gets conveyed? Well, I think there are a few reasons why this speak less, say more pattern is prevalent among master teachers. I think one reason is because in order for these master teachers to have become masters at all, they had to at some point ditch their ego. This means they aren't controlled as much as we are by the need to feel important or intelligent, and so speaking less comes much more naturally to them. But I think there is also another reason for their few words. When a person teaches something in a concise way, by using a short statement, analogy, or parable, they give you more license to think for yourself, and to take the message that you personally needed out of what was said. The more you try to describe or explain something, the more detail you give, the less opportunity you give the listener to come to conclusions on their own. I've often seen it happen that two people get entirely different messages when listening to the same talk or reading the same passage. I think one reason for this is because the speaker or writer, by not over-explaining, allows them to do this. I also think that the master teachers have come to understand by their experience that teaching is only an invitation for somebody to learn, and that it is just as important to respect the choice for the person that has chosen not to be taught as it is to teach the one who wants to learn. I'm going to bring up one final point to bring this all together, and this is not a point for master teachers, but for you and me. There's another very important reason not to talk more than necessary, not only when explaining things, but just in ordinary life, and I'll start with another passage from the Tao Te Ching. Keep your mouth closed, guard your senses, temper your sharpness, simplify your problems, mask your brightness, be at one with the dust of the earth. This is primal union. He who has achieved this state is unconcerned with friends and enemies, with good and harm, with honor and disgrace. This therefore is the highest state of man. So what on earth is this passage talking about? Well, this is one of those things that's extremely difficult to understand or explain if you haven't experienced it. So first, I'll try to very briefly explain it, and then I'll give you some pointers on how you can experience it. This state of primal union is a state of softness, openness, and quietness, where a person is able to walk around doing what they're doing with almost a meditative nature. This starts with keeping your mouth quiet, but ends with keeping your whole mind and soul quiet. When you're in this state, you make yourself open to feeling the pushes and pulls of nature and the universe. You can start to feel the presence of that great power that some call God and some call the Tao. You can feel yourself almost being called in one direction or another, or you will have thoughts and ideas come into your mind that weren't there before. I think master teachers were able to become master teachers because they learned to more or less live in this state, one where they were constantly open to being taught by the Tao or the higher power. If you want to experience this state of primal union, I would recommend finding a place where it's fairly quiet and where you won't be disturbed. Places out in nature work great for this. I understand that this will be easier for some people than for others, so if you live in a big city for example, you can look for something like a large park with a spot secluded by trees. Once you're in such a place, go ahead and meditate or pray or whatever you like to do, and then just listen. I recommend doing this about as long as you can stand it. Practice this and you'll start to get the hang of it. Then you can bring this practice into your daily life, once you've gotten the idea of what it feels like. If you can start to do this, you'll be well on your way to achieving this state of primal union, and to living a life that is truly worth living. Thanks for watching. Peace and blessings.